normal, the Big East will run it back in the fall. So this is officially the 2020 Big East Cross Country Championships, and we're delighted to bring it to you here on the Big East Digital Network. As they're off and running, let me give you some information on the teams. As we mentioned already, Villanova and Georgetown and Providence, three of the teams to watch for the women. Georgetown ranked 20th nationally in the latest USTF CCCA poll. Competed once in the spring season as the Spider Classic in Richmond, Virginia, and they won that event. And hello, everybody. I'm Dean Linke, flying solo with you, just trying to keep up with all of the outstanding Big East female runners. Of course, we'll crown a champion right here in front of me. I got the best seat in the house, and then we'll also crown a team champion. And as I mentioned already, stay with us because we will visit during the men's race, we hope, with the head coach of the women's team that wins the Big East title today and the individual runner. Now, let's get back out to the course and watch the runners, as we are thrilled to be with you here on what is just an absolutely wonderful day for Georgetown. As I was starting to talk about, as you see right now early on, junior Sammy Corman won the race. She finished 13th at the 2019 Big East Championship. Sophomore Maggie Donahue was 33rd in the Big East. We can tell you that on the women's side, Lydia Oliver from Villanova, who finished with a 21-29. She is your returning champion for Big East women. And for Villanova, Lydia Oliver is actually, as we take a look at it, she is back as a junior, so you got to figure Lydia Oliver is a heavy favorite. Butler, of course, winning it, their first ever. They have Angelina Ellis, who finished 6th last year, one behind Emily Royston, who finished 5th. Maddie McLean finished 14th, and Camille Hines finished 17. I can tell you, having run this course, that it will get really narrow at times, particularly when they get deep into the woods. You can see right now the pack is very close together, as you will be able to track it here, including the time, as you see across. And once again, this cross-country race is brought to you by Jeep. The Big East Cross Country Championships are brought to you by Jeep, celebrating 75 years of building vehicles that inspire freedom and adventure for all. Learn more and share your Jeep stories at Jeep.com. And today's championship also presented by Geico and SoFi, as the Big East thanks all of their corporate partners for bringing you live coverage of their championships. I think it's worth repeating that this is the first official championship. Of course, this weekend, Big East women's basketball will crown a champion. But we'll leave today sometime in the early afternoon with not one but two champions and two individual winners, Big East style. As you follow along, you'll see several Villanova runners out in front. Like you, it is a bumpy course out there, so I will try my best to give you the bib numbers and the leaders, and we'll keep track of the team winners throughout as well and try to update you with the final team results as soon as possible at the end of the race. We'll stick around too and hopefully show you some of the presentations, but most importantly, during the men's race, we'll visit with the winning coach and the winning individual. Speaking of coaches, Matt Rowe, the top man at Butler, Lindsay Crevasset, the top coach at Connecticut, Chris Gannon at Creighton, Dave Dopek at DePaul, Brendan Bonzi, who works with Alton Kenzie for Georgetown, Madeline Perez, and then for Providence, of course, the legend of 33 years, Ray Tracy, one of the all-time best, John Moon, who is the elder statesman among coaches. Of course, he was a coach for the 2000 Olympic team when they won more gold medals than any time in track. Of course, he was the sprint coach. John Moon, been at Seton Hall for almost 50 years. Mike Henshin at St. John's, and Megan. And keep in mind that the men's race is coming up at 11:50, and in a moment you'll see the men warming up already, as right now you see the pack is tight. There's the men having a nice jog here, some of them in T-shirts. That's how warm it is out here. As you saw when I came on camera, I still had my winter coat on because I'm tucked in out of the sun, but in the sun it is pleasant. In the back part of these loops, as you recall the race course, it will definitely get a little bit chillier, but for the stretch run that they'll hit not once but twice, it is wide open, and sunny and beautiful here at Cary, North Carolina. Give you a little more information on Wake Med Soccer Park. It's been around since 2000. It was the original home of the Carolina Courage of the WUSA. They won a championship back then. That went away and brought a men's team known as the Carolina Railhawks, later North Carolina FC, and then the North Carolina Courage returned, where they have won 2 championships in the last 3 years. So known for soccer, but this cross-country course has caught the attention really of the entire country. The ACC has held their championships here several times. Local schools in the North Carolina area tied to different conferences, and now the Big East making the decision, instead of Kenosha, Wisconsin, where they were last year, to come down here to what is considered balmy weather even in March. Again, the pack together, nobody pulling away right now in the women's cross-country race, as you're seeing 30-plus racers pretty tight. Definitely see Villanova in the middle of the pack and in the lead. We are going to take a break. Hopefully we can get a little tighter look at the bib numbers. You're watching the 2020 Big East Women's Cross Country Championships on the Big East Digital Network from Wake Med Cross Country Course in Cary, North. Welcome back to our live coverage of the Big East Cross Country Championships, beginning with the women at Wake Med Soccer Park in Cary. Delighted to be with you on the Big East Digital Network. Of course, the Cross Country Championships, again, brought to you by Jeep. Still limited separation. Of course, most of you watching, in fact, probably all of you, because you're on the up and up in cross country, know that historically cross country is one of the Big East's most accomplished sports. Nationally, Big East women's teams have won 4 of the last 11 NCAA national championships. Providence won the NCAA women's title in 2013. Villanova has won 9 NCAA women's titles, the last coming in 2010. And as you recall, Villanova, Georgetown, Providence, all expected to contend for a team title here today at Wake Med Soccer Park. Finally looping around and out of the woods, brightening up a little bit, so hopefully we can get close enough to get an ID on the bibs. A little bit more on the Providence women at the 2019 championships. 5 of Providence's top 7 were freshmen, as 1.5 years of development since the last Big East Cross Country Championship, so keep an eye on their pack. Ray Tracy, the coach, also an Irish and from the famed Tracy family. His brother John was a 4-time Olympian. Ray coaches some professionals as well, 2-time Olympian Molly Huddle and Emily Sisson, Providence graduate, one of the top young marathoners in the U.S. A little bit on the legend that is Ray Tracy, the top man for the Providence women. The Georgetown women, top 3 Hoyas to look for are Corman, Donahue, and Dammer. Corman won their lone cross-country race this year so far. Meanwhile, the Nova men, which we'll get to a little bit later, but it's always worth noting that the Nova men are outstanding. They're number 1 in the Mid-Atlantic region for the first time since the 2015 season. We'll have more on that as we get to the men's race. The Big East Cross Country Championships are brought to you by Jeep, celebrating 75 years of building vehicles that inspire freedom and adventure for all. Learn more and share your Jeep stories at Jeep.com. Thank you to Jeep for playing a big role and bringing us the first Big East Championship of this unprecedented year. And once again, on behalf of the Big East, we salute all of the medical frontline workers that have kept us safe. I can tell you, everybody out here at the Big East Cross Country Championships pre-race wearing their masks, being safe. As you see, they're 10 minutes into this race. Take a look at the winning time last year. Lydia Olivier from Villanova at 21:29. So we're roughly halfway through and hoping at some point to get a little tighter look at that front pack to help you know at home who is in the lead. Once again, coming in, we expected to see a lot of Villanova, a lot of Providence, a lot of Georgetown, and, of course, a lot of Butler, as Butler winning their first Big East championship on the women's side a year ago. ending a 2-year run by Villanova as the team champs. Butler in 2019, it was Villanova in 18 and 17. Providence, led by Ray Tracy, in 16 and 15 on the women's side. Georgetown in 14, Providence in 13, Georgetown in 12. That broke a 4-year run from Villanova, who won the women's cross-country title from 2008 until 2011. You see the 2-mile mark right there, as this is a 6K race. Of course, the men will go 8K. There are parts of this cross-country course that are pancake flat. As I mentioned, the finish line is straight uphill. It's a 200-plus yard finish that both the men and women will have to run up twice. They do have the benefit of starting downhill. You see, it's a Georgetown runner in the lead at the moment. Trying to get a better idea of the bibs here. A couple Georgetown runners up near the front, as Georgetown trying to return as champion on the women's side. The last time Georgetown won was in 2014. Their last individual champion was Katrina Coogan. That was in 2014 with a time of 20:31. And we are 14:45 in, so that gives you an idea that we are closely approaching the finish. So we can tell you now, the current leader, Sammy Corman from Georgetown. As we mentioned, Maggie Donahue, also from Georgetown. Katie Dammer from Georgetown. Laura Mooney from Providence. Randy Burr from Connecticut. Last year's winner, Lydia Olivier, is at 6th place. This was actually 10 minutes into the race. To give you an idea, Sammy Corman got off to a great start with Katie Dammer and Maggie Donahue, as their first splits were at 3:43, and then the second splits, 10:30, 10:31, was Sam Corman at 10:30. Then Donahue and Dammer, also from Georgetown. Mooney and Burr were at 10:31s with last year's winner, Lydia Olivier from Villanova. Providence's Orla O'Connor, along with Lily Tuck from Providence, were also at 10:31. Maria Kaufman was right there as well, and Villanova's Anna Mark Helwig was in that area. Angelina Ellis from Butler was just outside the top 10. As we are approaching the final 4 or 5 minutes here in the Big East Women's Cross Country Championship, and it's looking like Georgetown not only could have an individual winner, but they are looking solid to win the team title with 3 amongst the top 10, as we are 16:25 in. And again, now you're seeing some of that incline and some of the terrain that I mentioned back in behind the soccer fields at WakeMed Soccer Park, and a little bit of uphill climb that will end with an incline that you do not realize how tough it is until you try to finish, and you definitely have to balance your kick for sure. As a couple Georgetown runners in the lead, I believe it's still Corman and Donahue. Dammer was a part of that lead early on. I'll reach out to my main man, Kevin, for an update on who the front 2 runners are, as like you at home, the viewers, tough to make out the bib, but certainly you can see the Georgetown Hoyas looking solid here so far at WakeMed Soccer Park in Cary, North Carolina. So 2 Hoyas running neck and neck. As we told you early, Georgetown ranked 20th nationally in the latest USTF CCCA poll. They competed just once in the spring season. That was at the Spider Classic in Richmond, and they won that event, edging Connecticut on a tiebreaker. Junior Sammy Corman won the race, and she finished 13th a year ago at the 2019 Big East Championship. So no surprise that Corman is out in front for the Georgetown Hoyas. Olivier is in third, leading the chase. So keep an eye on Olivier, who won it last year. Lydia from Villanova with a time of 21:29. So based on that time, gives you a pretty good indication that we are approaching that final stretch run. So Georgetown loading up the front of the pack here. And of course, Villanova's Lydia Olivier not too far behind, but at the moment, it's Corman and Donahue, I believe. Could be Dammer in there, but Corman definitely one of the two Georgetown racers out in front. As you see the finish line, there's the time right there, 19 minutes in, so you know you're only a couple minutes away. The finish line right in front of me, and that might be the first time where I'll get the best look at these runners out here. As again, the Gators got to give enough distance between the runners to make sure they do not impede. The men are warming up all over this beautiful course. Of course, we'll have that race around 11:50, and reminding you that whoever hangs on, which we presume will be from Georgetown, we will visit with the winning runner during the men's race. Providence on the women's side is ranked 23rd nationally going into this week's championship. They're always dangerous. Villanova is receiving votes in the national poll. At the last Big East championship, Coach Gina Procaccio led a very young squad to runner-up finishes at the Big East and the NCAA Mid-Athletic Regional. And Butler's last year's winner is also receiving votes in the latest poll. The returning champion Bulldogs can look to seniors Emily Royston and Angelina Ellis, who finished 5th and 6th respectively at the Big East race. And we are approaching the final. The winners are across, and you're seeing just all kinds of Georgetown athletes finishing. Now UConn with 3 across, Providence with another one, UConn as well. Providence and Butler coming across the finish line now as well. And this race is complete. So Corman getting the win for Georgetown. Sammy Corman, a junior, gets the gold medal, the Big East Championship, and will have massive points for the Georgetown Hoyas as they look to return as champion for the first time since 2014. We'll get you updated when we can on the final team results, but congratulations to Georgetown's talented Sammy Corman. As I mentioned, she won the Spider Classic in Richmond last week. A lot of these teams in the Big East, this is their first race. Here you go. Let's start with the Big East Championship. And remember, a lot of them are also doing indoor track at the moment. More runners coming across as everybody out on the track getting ready to finish. As you can see, even as they cross the finish line, their bib numbers are about 16-point font. But nonetheless, we do know that Sammy Corman is your individual champion. We'll keep you posted on the team results as we get them. Runners still working the course. We're going to send a break. We come back, we'll tabulate the results. As you see, Corman Donahue from Georgetown, last year's winner, Oliver finishing in 3rd.